say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because we like to stay constant, like Planck's constant, because it's our own never-ending story. You see? Ready to sing? Okay. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays. And as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, via Google Play, and now on Spotify to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Fuller House, Westworld, Arrested Development, Jane the Virgin, Supernatural, Orange is the New Black, Riverdale, Gotham, the Marvel shows on Netflix, and the Arrowverse on the CW. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Game of Thrones, iZombie, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 13 Reasons Why, The Crown, American Horror Story, Grace and Frankie, The Good Place, Altered Carbon, Doctor Who, Schitt's Creek, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will talk Season 2 of The Next Generation. We'll be launching new panels covering the chilling adventures of Sabrina, Charmed, Outlander, the Breaking Bad universe, This Is Us, and the Orville. And because we look back at shows not past, we'll put out some musical stops for our Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. We'll revisit one of the all-time and most-watched classic sitcoms, MASH. We'll consider the moral implications and quick cancellation of Dollhouse, and we'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, and game stores. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in these quarantine times. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play and now on Spotify. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews and we always seek new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Feedback, good or bad, is classic, like classic Coke. Classic can be refreshing too. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Today we are around the water cooler and streaming originals as we talk Season 3 of Stranger Things, which was released in its entirety to the Netflix streaming library on July 4th, 2019, with a total of 8 episodes, which means, for the record, that the show is legally available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is Netflix-produced original content. Again, if you wouldn't mind asking Netflix to make it easier to cover their shows on the podcast by giving us free subscriptions, we would greatly appreciate it. To remind the listener, Stranger Things is an American science fiction horror web television series created, written, directed, and co-produced by the Duffer Brothers. In the 3rd season, the main cast features Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Finn Wolfhard, Millie Bobby Brown, Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, Natalia Dyer, Charlie Heaton, Cara Buono, Noah Schnapp, Joe Keery, Sadie Sink, Decray Montgomery, and Maya Hawke. Stranger Things is set in the fictional rural town of Hawkins, Indiana during the early 1980s. The nearby Hawkins National Laboratory ostensibly performs scientific research, or it did, for the United States Department of Energy, but secretly does experiments into the paranormal and supernatural, including those that involve human test subjects. Inadvertently, the lab creates a portal to an alternate dimension called the Upside Down. The influence of the Upside Down starts to affect the unknowing residents of Hawkins in calamitous ways. The 3rd season is set in the days leading up to the 4th of July celebration in 1985. The new Starcourt Mall has become the center of attention for Hawkins residents, putting most other stores out of business. Hopper, played by Harbour, becomes increasingly concerned about Eleven, played by Brown, and Mike, played by Wolfhard, and their relationship, while still trying to care for Joyce, played by Ryder. Unbeknownst to the town, a secret Soviet laboratory under Starcourt seeks to open the gateway to the Upside Down, allowing the entities from the Upside Down to possess people in Hawkins, and creating a new horror that is unleashed upon the town. Our committed group of non-strangers, namely Kyle, Hillary, Michael, Sarah, and Jeremy, your main moderator included, is back around our virtual water cooler in quarantine from all the upside down in the real world to discuss the state of one of the preeminent water cooler series of the past few years to see how it's holding up, or upside down as it were. Is it still wowing all with its ample creep factor and fantastical fantasy homages to the 80s and to modern horror films? Or is it losing its mom-and-pop local business appeal by trying to be too flashy like the establishment of the new mall in town? I will, of course, gauge the answer to that question by taking a moment to double-check the panel's temperature as, after all, sometimes a TV show can take turns for the better or the worse in our heads, or can continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof, depending upon its story evolution. Since the panel is ready to fight that battle of Starcourt Mall, or at least to navigate the spats of young love as depicted on this series, it should be noted, as always, that all of our panelists have viewed all of Stranger Things to date, and will, let's face it, discuss very sensitive plot points. So for those of you who have not watched Stranger Things at all, which I would truly be amazed to hear, listen at your own risk, as we will most definitely be discussing major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Awesome.
Doing good.
Are you ready to virtually discuss Stranger Things Season 3 today?
Yes.
Yes. Know it.
How's your quarantine life?
It's the usual, just another day.
Just another day with a talk about Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! So what we're going to do is take your temperature. We're going to do that along the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do. I tweaked it somewhat. We did lose a couple of characters. We gained a character or two. And then some of our characters had a little bit of changing in the Stranger Things 3 season. And so what I'm going to do is read this question as always, and you're going to tell me how you feel nowadays. Are you ready, panel?
Ready for it.
Let's do it.
Awesome. The rest of you can talk too, Jeremy.
I'm channeling my inner 11.
I don't know how I feel about that, but okay. So after watching Stranger Things 3, do you feel, or did you watch it because you were drawn to the horror aspects? They affect you in all sorts of unexpected ways, and part of you loves that connection, even if unwittingly, and even though you know that this connection will most likely result in nightmares and unwelcome chilling sensations. After all, as you realize, you are connected to the hive intelligence that adores this show worldwide, and you can't break away like Will Byers. Do you watch it because you love the child characters, especially Eleven and Will, and because you think the story is a great adventure along the lines of Goonies or Stand By Me, like Mike Wheeler? Do you watch it because you secretly love the show, though you won't admit it because you don't talk much? You're happy that others like it too because it means you might have friends for the first time in your life. Also, the show might scare you a little, like you scare you a little. Also, you love that even the younger female characters are empowered, strong badasses, which was very atypical for the decade in which the show is set, like 11. Did you watch it because you love the romances? They're a great callback to all of those brat pack flicks and cheesy 80s rom-coms, though you're no Shrinking Violet like some of the leading ladies back then, despite being subjected to the unmistakable sexist overtones of the decade. Alternatively, you like the conspiracy theory aspect of it and believe wholeheartedly that the truth is out there and should be made public, like Nancy Wheeler. Do you watch it because you care most about the characters, particularly Joyce and Eleven? You don't know if they will ever have normal lives, given the scary truths they all face, but you want to help them try for such a life, and you believe doing so might even be somewhat redeeming for the Hopper character, like Jim Hopper. Do you watch it because your family watches it, even though you don't think it's a good idea that they do, and you're kind of helplessly along for the ride, hoping to protect your family from the horrors they might find? Also, you're pretty obsessed with the Nancy character, like Jonathan Byers. Do you watch it because your friends watch it, even though you're not sure that your friends, particularly your significant other, are operating with good judgment, like Maxine or Max Mayfield? Do you watch it because your significant other watches it, and you're low-key looking for relationship advice, particularly what not to do in a preteen relationship, like Lucas and Claire? Do you watch it because you're fascinated by the mystical creatures from the Upside Down, like the Mind Flayer? You're a scientist after all, and even though some of the plot shouldn't work, like kids taking on Russian spies on American soil, you're willing to keep up the experiment of watching this to find out what happens, even if you don't always like the direction it's taking. Plus, your significant other is super impressed by the idea that you watch a group of young adults saving the world. That is, when your significant other is not demanding that you sing via your super-juiced radio tower connection at a critical moment. Requests for Lamal's Never-Ending Story, anyone? Like Dustin Henderson. Do you watch it because you think the 80s backdrop is kind of sexy? Unfortunately, though, you can only handle it in small doses anymore, and you might find yourself unexpectedly dead inside from all of the horrible things you're watching, like Billy Hargrove. Do you watch it because you have nothing else to do when you're scooping ice cream, for the most part, except try to awkwardly hit on girls, and the kids who patronize your ice cream store in the mall seem to really like it, and you are a surprisingly good babysitter. That is, until you're caught by Russian spies and injected with truth serum and forced to say what you really feel about the show, like Steve Harrington. Do you watch it, but it's hard for you to handle? The danger in which the children find themselves hits all too close to home? Or you watch it because you're a big fan of flicks like Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Heathers, etc. Or you watch it, but you were prepared to give it only one more chance, as you were left somewhat traumatized by the first 2 seasons, and were prepared to jump the shark, but something about or someone in the show kept you hanging on, like Joyce Byers. You didn't start watching it until season 3 came out, or you inexplicably started with season 3. You really have no idea what's going on, and you don't understand why small children are involved. You also think the character of Steve the Hare Harrington is kind of a wank, or at least you did at first. Still, you've committed to jumping in both feet first, for better or for worse, and it's surprising that you've become so involved so quickly and naturally, like Robin Buckley. You strongly dislike the show. It is the very definition of child endangerment. It's just a bunch of nerds running around and talking about monsters. The only way you will continue to watch this show is if you are promised free ice cream for life, like Erica Sinclair, or, and they won't answer this, but it's here, you don't watch it because you think it's horrifying, and you'd rather stay oblivious to the truths lurking beneath your small town, though you think that Billy Kid is kind of hot, like Karen Wheeler, or because you decided to move your operation out of Hawkins and stop the bad experiments like Dr. Sam Owens, or because, spoiler, you died in season 2 like Bob Newby. Who would like to start?
Hi, I'm Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. I like the fact that you gave me an idea of what I was last time, because I would not have remembered. But I was last time for season 2 a combination of Mike Wheeler and Jim Hopper with a little bit of Bob Newby thrown in because I was afraid the show was leaving me dead inside.
That is precisely what you said, yes.
Yeah. And I'm definitely still more Mike and Jim because I do still love the kids, and all of those kid characters are amazing, and they keep adding so many great kid characters, so I'm in it for the long haul just because of them. And I'm still very much a little bit of Jim because I like Eleven and Joyce so much, and I want them to have a good life at the end of whatever this show ends up being. So I'm not really anyone else. I think it's just those two.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you.
My name is Hillary.
Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Hillary. Hi. And in a second, my husband will talk. His name is Kyle, but you'll get that aspect going on later. I was the last
You're forgetting somebody.
What?
You're forgetting somebody.
Oh, and you're moderating, and you're my sister.
Thank you. You're out of practice with the disclaimer.
Sorry, it's quarantine brain.
Fair enough.
I said the last time I was Will, Mike, and Jim, and I am staying all those characters for the same reasons I think I said before, mostly. I like all the horror aspects. I like the whole ambiance of the show. I like the nostalgia of the show. I love the characters of the show. There's really not a lot that I don't like about the show, if I'm being honest with you. But I do think, though, that the characters really are a driving force. And I think that's what's so endearing about it. And I think that's what people find they relate to a lot. And that kind of encapsulates all those character descriptions. So that is what I'm going to say.
All right. Welcome back, Hillary.
And I'm Kyle, Hillary's husband.
Hi, Kyle, Hillary's husband.
Last time I was Will Byers, and that's going to stay the same. I'm obsessed with everything horror. It's what brought me to this show. But now with a mixture of Hopper, because like everyone else, I fell in love with these characters. I need to know what happens to them, and I love all their interrelationships and the way the show uses them each season a little bit differently. So yeah, that's what I watch it for.
Welcome back, Kyle.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Sarah.
Hi,
Nice to
Sarah.
meet
Nice to meet you too. Although we've met before, I think.
I'm saying that for the benefit of all the new listeners that we're going to get.
Fair
Tweet
enough.
at us, new people. Okay. Tweet at us at CPU Podcast.
There you go.
Last time I was Will, and I am still Will. I only pick one that's like my thing, but I'm still Will. I really enjoyed it. Actually, this was my favorite season so far. Ooh, teaser.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Sarah.
It's good to be here. I am not related to or married to anybody on this panel. Although I am neighbors with Kyle and Hillary. So I guess that's,
Close enough.
close enough. Yeah.
And we've known each other a fair long time.
Yes, and I've known Jeremy a really long time. He hasn't introed yet. But Michael, I also like you. My friend. Everybody's connected.
We're all connected in this quarantine way.
Like
Speaking
a
of
circle
Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy.
It's my turn.
It is.
Hi, I'm Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
I am also not related to anybody except for maybe Kylie by choice. Last time I was, I think, Will and Dustin.
You were.
I think I switched a little bit up this time just because I really found that I really liked 11 and Joyce's storylines a lot and how they progressed in the story. So I feel I'm more an 11 and Dusty because I still want to know more about the Mind Flayer, the Upside Down, and everything the Russians were trying to do and whatever is going on with the next set of scientists.
Okay, fair enough. Welcome back, Jeremy. And of course, as I've mentioned, my name is Kylie. I both moderate and participate on this panel, as is often the case. Last time I was Will and Mike. I will remain Will and Mike. I'm not going to lie to you. Now that Game of Thrones is off the air and there's some other stuff going on, Stranger Things is probably my favorite show on right now. Although I haven't finished Star Trek Picard, but at least Stranger Things... Oh, Sarah, don't do that.
It's so good.
Okay.
I'm shaking my head.
Oh, there's disagreement.
Back
No.
me up,
You
Kyle.
should have already watched it.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Some people have things going on, Jeremy.
We're all quarantined, for God's sakes. We got some time.
But I also am... No.
Yeah.
You just have your orders. Just own it. You just like your orders.
Yeah, I like my orders. I got to get back to it. Anyway, Stranger Things is probably my favorite show on right now, or at least one of my favorite shows. I don't see that changing now that we're in the third season. I just like everything about this show. I really have very little to pick apart, which is a little bit of a foreshadowing. I also agree with Sarah. Season 3 is my favorite season so far as well. But we'll get to it. So let's talk about Season 3. Of course, in this, as a couple of people have alluded to, all of the characters kind of got reshuffled. There were different groups interacting. There was the whole presence of this mall. There were Russians. The Mind Flayer was going for a physical presence on this side of the barrier to the Upside Down. A lot of things happened, and yet it was a fairly streamlined season, I would say. So talk about it. Let's start generally. What did you like? What didn't you like?
I think it knows itself so well that everything in this season was very time period. The mall being like this fancy new neon hangout. Yes. That one kid, Dustin, going to science summer camp. Yes. The Russians. Yes. Like, they really knew what they were going for, and I think it was very well executed.
Yeah, they always seem to go for, it's like, oh, it's 1985. So what was happening in a 1985 that we can take advantage of? So, you got the Red Dawn aspect, you got the Terminator aspect, you've got I'm pretty sure I've been to that mall. I'm pretty sure I've been to that specific mall. I know it's just a set, but...
Haven't we all been to that mall? Quote unquote.
The storefronts were so accurate. Like, it was a complete
all the
flashback.
all the retro logos and everything was very spot on.
Did anyone else, a couple of those stores, you didn't realize they were around way back then? Like, Family Video was around back then?
I mean, maybe.
I was surprised by Claire's.
But like I was saying, like if you watch the horror movie Chopping Mall, it's like they literally recreated that mall. Like,
I saw that one, actually. It was on, like, Pluto TV.
I've heard of that never heard of it.
It's terrible, but in a 1980s sort of way.
I'm going to watch it on your recommendation now. I'm going to check that out.
Just to see the mall?
I'm not even kidding. I'll watch that.
It's
Sarah, you don't like that.
killer robot in a mall killing teenagers. That's what it is.
That sounds great.
but it's hilarious.
I like funny, weird horror movies. I don't like the
And
torture
that's
ones.
exactly what it is. It's very tongue in cheek.
I'm down.
Sarah, I'm going to message you one after this, by the way, Sarah.
A tongue-in-cheek horror movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do it. I also liked the pool. Like, everybody go down to the pool. I don't know. That seems like an 80s thing.
Well, I mean, in the city where we live in, which is Grand Rapids, Michigan, we say that in the intro, there are city parks in Kentwood, the suburb where many of us also reside or have resided. The high school had open swim at its pool in the 1980s and early 90s. I mean, that is what you did in the summertime. You found a swimming pool, usually a public pool, and they had a lifeguard that may or may not have looked like Billy, and you went swimming. I mean, the whole feel and look of the show is so accurate. I've said this before on this podcast about this show before, but also even just to people I tell about this show. It's a very visceral experience because I was alive in the decade, as most of us were. I'm the oldest. I might remember it a little bit better. So a lot of it is very, very palpable. It really snaps my brain back to that time when I might have otherwise forgotten it in my adult years.
It's like a time machine. Like you just went through a time machine experience.
Pretty much. And that mall was just the new height of it, just because everything just looks so, like it did back then. I also agree that the story was very, very streamlined this season. They knew what they were going for, and everything was very well plotted. It started off kind of slow, and you're like, okay, this is everybody getting back together, and what's really going to happen? But then it rockets up, accelerates in speed very quickly, and it has this huge epic climax, which all of the seasons do, but for some reason, I felt like this one was one of the more satisfying epic climaxes of the three
it was more
seasons.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. And there were so many things that were all coming together. But I thought it was really well written, and it didn't feel like a terrible mashup. It just all collided at the same time.
Yeah, and you could kind of get a sense of how everyone's little side stories were going to come together in the end, better than last season. We're like, okay, why am I watching this person do this when the other story is way more interesting? The season was so much better. They were all equally good, and you can get it, and you knew it was all going to come together.
Yeah, I honestly, because of the smooth transition in the writing and how all the stories converged, I felt like I had, again, an equal, what do I want to say?
Investment.
Yeah, an equal investment in all the characters equally.
Now, there's one storyline. I don't know. Should we get into anything we're nitpicking about yet?
Oh, yeah. There's no rules here.
All right. Because there's
no rules in quarantine.
For me... Oh boy. Anyway, for me, the one storyline that I had a problem with was the Terminator storyline. The
Gory
and Jim being chased by the Russian guy who was clearly an Arnold Schwarzenegger knockoff. And that storyline got to me only because I'm not a huge fan of Maury at all. I hate that actor, and I did not like his character last season, nor did I like him this season. And it just that was the only thing that got to me. And I love Joyce and I like Jim, but it got to be tedious. And to me, it didn't really evoke the Terminator well, because it was too much almost like moonlighting in Terminator in one, which is kind of...
That sounds awesome.
It was supposed to be the villains from Die Hard mixed with Terminator. He quotes Die Hard a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I thought he was really successful, and I think Hopper needed a nemesis, because as people have grown to love Hopper, it was nice to see him have an arc with the villain himself, and not just 11 be the only one who deals with these threats. So I really like that. Plus, I
Yeah.
love Murray.
Well, yeah, I actually liked that. Yeah, because again, if you're figuring into what the whole universe is set around, I guess it's not any more out there than anything else that's going on, at least for me. So I liked that aspect, and I liked watching Jim just be a badass again.
Fat Rambo, as he gets called a couple times.
So I actually enjoyed that piece about it, and I thought that I actually liked the way that they did it without making it too cheesy. I didn't think it was too cheesy personally. I thought it kind of fit in well with everything else that was going on.
I didn't think it was cheesy. I think what annoyed me was that I didn't like the bickering between Joyce and Jim and how he was constantly yelling at her. And it seemed weird to me that Joyce would just abandon her children and go off on this Terminator like they were literally running from this
I think she thought that they were leading the threat away from their kids.
Yeah, I think she thought...
I didn't get that at all. I thought I did not get that they were trying to take the threat away. It seemed to me like it was...
Hopper kept saying he was following them to Illinois, and they kept saying, the kids are safe in Indiana.
Nobody's safe in Indiana. Oh. Just kidding, Indiana. I love you.
Not this Indiana, they're not safe.
Right.
I really like Joyce's storyline at this point because in my mind, she was so reactive in the last couple seasons. This was finally a chance for her to be proactive and try to solve the problem first.
Yeah, she was taking charge in her own way. Like, yes, she was helping Jim a lot, and to some degree, the kids as a group, they're probably a little more self-sufficient, but she's still a mom and she's still going to be concerned for them. But I agree. I like the aspect of her actually taking... She took charge in the other seasons, but they did it in a way where she seems more like together herself. And I didn't mind the bickering between her and Jim. I thought it was funny because, as Bald Eagle points out, it's just their mating ritual, and I thought it was kind of funny to watch them go through that personally.
See, that also felt too much like Murray commenting on the Nancy and Jonathan thing from season 2.
But I think that was the point.
Again, like he's commenting on the moonlighting aspect of the two will they, won't they, and it's just like, oh my god, we already got this.
But I think that was
like
the
Murray.
No, I don't. It's part of it.
I also think that was the exact point of the whole exchange, though. I think what the show has set up is that the characters are connected because there are similarities amongst a lot of them. I think the fact that Joyce and Hopper were in this moonlighting phase is because they seeded that pretty heavily in season 2. We actually talked about that in our last episode. There was more hints and glimpses at that point. Now they wanted to hit the hammer on the head. Like they wanted to be on the nose because they wanted you to see all of those parallels and different connections. Also, I agree. I agree with Hillary and Kyle. I did not mind the Grigori part of the story. It didn't.
I liked Grigori. He was funny.
Alexi is the one
you're thinking of
Alexi.
Yeah,
Alexi.
Right.
Yeah.
Grigori.
Alexi.
He's the Terminator.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I got mixed up.
Yeah.
Alexi was amazing.
Alexi.
I thought it was
fantastic.
Him and Murray, they're back and forth.
The highlight of this season.
Yep.
I think it was a credit to their writing, too, how much they made us care about Alexi. And then, spoilers ahead, when he gets killed, I was like,
that was pretty devastating.
Devastated, yeah.
That was too bad.
Yeah, but I also wanted just to say about the Joyce and Jim thing, what I really liked about that was they gave her a chance to acknowledge that she wasn't over what happened to Bob yet. And so it made her seem more human because he was kind of trying to like go on dates with her and like spend time with her. And she like
couldn't do it. Yeah.
Wasn't ready yet. And I think that made her seem more real to me. If she had just been like, oh yeah, I'm down for this, I kind of would have felt, come on, like take a little time to grieve.
That's a good
Exactly, especially consider it's only been like a year in the timeline. Like a real human person would not move on that quickly if they were that invested.
Yeah, but they still showed that there's something there.
They've always had a little something going on.
Yeah, and in season 2, they've hinted that they've loved each other since high school.
Yeah.
And that it's always been lurking, just neither of them had the right timing.
Yeah. So I thought that was, the writing, I think, was just really good across the board. But some of those plot points were just so good. Like the carnival and when they were running, and I'm like, don't get him.
Quite honestly, actually, even though it wouldn't have been year appropriate, Grigori gave me more Robert Patrick vibes than Arnold Schwarzenegger vibes. He was more of a T2 to
I can
me
see that. Mhm.
than an actual Terminator Prime, but it wouldn't have fit the year scheme. I didn't mind that. And also the tie-in with the Russians, and then we have to mention one of the guest stars, Carrie Elwes, as the mayor of the town. Of course, Wesley and the Princess Bride, that's why he appeared. That came out a couple years later, but we're not counting the years there. And corrupt, very, very corrupt dude. He's the one who agrees to all of the mysterious land purchases, the Starcourt Mall, which becomes a mask for the Russians as they explore the Upside Down in Hawkins. And a lot of that story that you're mentioning is an offshoot from that. So what do we think about old Wesley, as you wish?
I just love Carrie Elwes no matter
Amazing.
what. We had seen him at Michigan Comic-Con in Detroit, literally, and he said he was going to be in season 3, and everyone was just so excited. Because even when he's a villain, he's likable.
And he plays a villain, like, a lot.
Yeah.
And nowadays, especially, it's funny how he turned from, kind of young heartthrob in, A Princess Bride to whatever the word is for slimy type politician here. I mean, he's played that slimy character.
And he was in Kiss the Girls. He played, spoilers, if you haven't seen that movie, sorry, it's been like 20 years, but he played like a deranged rapist in that movie. I mean, and yet you still he's a likable character when you see him until he does the gross things.
He really gives the Jaws mayor vibe that you saw in a lot of 80s movies. Just a politician who's very self-centered and has no idea what's actually going on.
Yeah, he's just going after his own greed, and he doesn't really care about what happens. But again, it was another time for Jim to kind of be a badass. And
Joyce when she...
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I really enjoyed when Jim kind of taught him a lesson in Carrie, or what's his name in the...
Klein, I believe.
Yeah.
Larry Klein.
In his own office, just tore him up.
Locks the door on him.
Yeah, and Joyce to the secretary, who are you going to call, the police?
What else?
I didn't think they wrapped things up very well between Jim and Joyce. I like the scene in the bunker when they're talking, and he's like, I wanted to keep you safe. That was a nice scene. I think it wrapped things up nicely before his, not really death. Again, spoiler.
Oh, Kylie's giving you the...
You can't say wrap things up, because there's more going to happen. Yeah. Come on now. He's still alive.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. That's the end. What else did you like or not like? Is there anything you didn't like?
Erica.
You liked her?
Oh, yes. She was hilarious. You can't spell America without Erica.
She was fantastic. I love how she just continuously put everybody in their very blunt places.
Anything that happened in the ice cream store, was it Chips Ahoy? What was that place?
Scoops Ahoy. Scoops Ahoy.
Scoops Ahoy.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that happened in that ice cream store has my heart. I love Steve. Anyway, I'm just there. I've said it. And I love Robin. I think she was great. Great. I even believe that she could decipher Russian with very little training, but I got right on that bus. I loved everything that happened in the mall. I mean, not loved, because some of it was pretty yucky in the end. But I loved all of that writing and storyline and the characters and Eric, how in with them. Loved it.
Yeah, I feel like the Red Dawn aspect of it was very well integrated. The idea of, it seems so absurd to have Russians in a small town in Indiana and using a mall as a underground facility to use as your base of operations. It's all incredibly absurd, and yet it's very well executed as believable. And I like the mixture of those characters. It doesn't seem like they should go together, but they did.
Yeah, I knew eventually people were going to comment on the Russian thing, but I mean, you have to consider the source and the kind of show that it is anyway. You should be suspending the disbelief factor, because it's literally just to add to the overall mythology that's going along with the show. So it's kind of meant to be over the top a little bit, and I mean,
that whole town didn't even notice the research facility to begin with, so they all have their heads in the...
Because they built a mall right over it. It was perfect. I'm distracted by all the ice cream.
Most people in that town, though, are so clueless. They're like, oh, what's going on over here? No, they have no idea. How many years has it been? 3 now? Come on.
I like genuinely love Steve's character, and I don't know why, but like,
Sweetie.
getting into like, oh my gosh, you know how, well, some of you know how I feel about torture. I'm against it. And I don't like to watch
What a
things where,
controversial stance.
I know, guys, I'm so brave. I'm coming forth to let you know that I'm against it. But things where it happens and I don't like to watch those things. I get very much like, why am I watching this? I could be watching whatever, Saved by the Bell. But I hung in there on this because I loved it, and I loved that it was realistic. Like, he wasn't tortured so much that, like, why is he alive? And then she was there. Oh, it was so good. It was so good, and I don't know.
Yeah, I just like their bonds. Like, Steve, I love how, I mean, we talked about it, of course, with season 2 between him and Dustin, but I just like how that continues to expand. And I just love how Steve is with Robin. Like, that dynamic is so, I mean, it's just like charming to watch. I can't even think of a better adjective for it. But I love the scene in the bathroom when they're coming off of their drug high. It brings little tears to my heart. It's just everything about it. They find the best ways to make everything like funny. That's what I said. You feel endeared to everything that's happening with the characters.
I mean, it's a testament to their writing when Steve, who could have been a one-dimensional season 1 high school bully, ends up being everyone's favorite character.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people's.
Well, and
He's not
like
my
you
favorite character.
I was going to say.
A lot of people. Not everybody. A lot of people appreciate where he's at, I think.
It's just how he manages to go from being the bully to this person that has all these people around him, and he makes a team out of it. Like in the second one, how he was like protecting those kids. And I don't know. I think it's really good writing. And I like the actor, and I like all the relationships that are happening there. And that was my favorite plot line, was the mall.
And of course, Robin was played by Maya Hawke, who is a relative newcomer and the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. What did you think of her addition to the cast?
One of the best of the season. I think she's one of the best. She's a great actress, just like really talented, and she got a lot of great nuance to the character. I want to say, I can't remember if it was her idea for her to come out as a lesbian or not, but I feel like she had some input into that, and she played it off really well, and just like was like, no, these two should not be together. It's more, it would be best that they're just friends. And I don't know. She's really talented. I cannot wait to see what more she does next season. Hopefully they don't just drop her and have her do nothing next season. I'm hoping she'll be integrated somehow.
Agreed.
I
think she's fantastic.
Pretty good at.
I was going to say, I think she's fantastic. She added a lot of humor. Yeah. That whole group was the comic relief probably the most, as opposed to the love squabbling in the Mike, Lucas, Max, 11 group and the Joyce and Hopper moonlighting vibe group. I think there was a lot more funny stuff happening in the Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Erica group. And I liked all of the different one-liners that she had for scenes, things that she would, especially as she's kind of learned what was going on and learned about everything that Steve knew and why are all of these, I loved every reference she made to why are these children here? Another one of your children are here. I don't know why they're here. So I just thought she was really great.
Yeah, even like towards the end when she sees like the Mind Flayer monster and Steve's like, are you going to be okay? And she's like, ask me tomorrow. Which is fair. I have a similar reaction.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I actually took that she meant that that's in that bad car accident. Is she going to be okay tomorrow when she's all sore is what I thought.
Well, it could, you know what? It probably was that. It's probably everything happening in those scenes.
Everybody got their butt kicked.
Yeah.
Everybody that was like 15 and older in this got their butt kicked.
Right? Steve's face. Ugh.
Nancy and
Jonathan.
Jonathan in the
I could never
hospital.
remember his name moment either.
Before I watched this season, because I didn't watch it for quite a while because Nick wanted to watch it with me. Everybody knows Nick on here,
Hi, Nick, if you're listening.
Hi, Nick. He's not. He's probably not.
Okay.
But he wanted to watch it together, but like he didn't want to watch it right away. And once we started watching it, he's like, why did I make us wait? This is amazing. But there was just like something, he was like, we're watching this, let's wait. Before we started watching, I watched an interview with those two actors, and they were breaking down that scene in the hospital. So I watched that sequence ahead of time, which I'm kind of glad I did, because you know what a chicken I am. So now I was able to see it through their eyes and like, oh, this is where they were doing that. But they were talking through those shots and they were intense. I mean, they were like multiple floors, getting kicked and stabbed. Oh, it was intense, man. And I kept thinking, Jonathan can't get up. He can't get up. He'd have to have like a broken head at this point. No, he kept going. It was intense.
Yeah, the suspense level is pretty much ongoing. I feel like it has actually been at its height with this season. Like the other seasons had their level of suspense, but this one for me, I don't know, maybe it's just because of the good writing and the way they put it together and everything, but I felt like after everything came together, just the level of suspense was pretty much spot on for me.
This show I watched when it came out because it was July 4th and it was a very hot day. I remember it being very hot. I watched this whole thing in a day, which I've never really done before. And there was at the end of the season, I was literally like, what what just happened? But then when I rewatched it to prepare for our recording today, since it's been some months, and now that I knew what was coming, I didn't have the same emotional release at first because I was so stunned, but this time the emotions like really welled up in the rewatch. I was more scared for some reason and also much more prone to tears by the end of the season because of all the things that had happened, and for some reason I was able to connect to it. Like I needed that second watch to let it land because the first watch was just so intense and so action-packed that I was literally wide-eyed by the end of it, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Makes me want to rewatch it now.
You should. It's totally holds up.
We just rewatched it over the weekend, and it's still just as good.
I'm going to have to watch like the entire series. Do we know if season 4 is the last one, or if there are more coming?
I think it's the last one.
No,
okay, so
there's
I
a
feel like
fifth.
I'm going to have to watch.
There's a fifth season, yeah. They're planning for 5.
Okay. So I feel like I'm going to have to watch the whole thing leading up to that final season in order to kind of like bring it all together again. Be like, oh, wow, what's the all-encompassing overall story this is trying to tell? But yeah, obviously I should definitely rewatch this season because it was so good.
I mean, yeah. So let's talk about those ending sequences now, since we're kind of driving there anyway. I mean, so much really happens. We didn't even talk about as much.
Billy or 11 or
yeah, Billy or 11. We should probably hit on that before we get to the end.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I at first, I'm going to be honest, I didn't love all the making out. I felt a little like...
I was going to ask you, because in the season 2 episode, you were really uncomfortable with the Mike and 11 relationship. You kept saying, why are they kissing so young? I didn't kiss that young.
Okay, I was a bit of a prude, I will admit. But I guess that it was just like, this is how old I am now. This is what I'm realizing. You know, Jim was trying to like help the boundaries, like please leave the door open, you know, things that I consider to be sort of appropriate, and she was like no, and slamming it with her mind and just making out, and I was like, oh gosh, this isn't, somebody help, they're gonna get pregnant. I don't know, I get really like
Psychic babies.
I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, that's maybe season 5. But so I think that's what I mean when I say that it upset me. I wasn't like, I think it's a valid plot point. I think it's very much what kids do. But I was like, he's got to do better. But I did like when they broke up. And
when she
Max,
said, I dump your ass.
Mm-hmm, and Max and 11 got to go be gal pals together. I thought that was very fun for them.
Well, like that's what's happening. You know, it's the stereotypical 11 is exploring her independence and her teenage years and just being like a normal kid out in the world. And obviously Jim and her are exploring their relationship because that's still kind of new. Obviously, Jim had a kid before, and this is kind of new territory because she never got to be a teenager, but 11 is, but it's unique because she's got superpowers and Hawkins is crazy.
Mm-hmm. All of that.
Yeah, and I still like the Mike and 11 thing. I think it is, again, very relatable. A lot of kids are making out like that at that age. They were still being separate. They were just making out. Like, they're sitting knee to knee. It's okay.
I just think he was well within his parental right to be like having those conversations, and I liked that he was trying to get help from Joyce.
Yeah, I love that. Was another part with Joyce and Jim that I loved when she's trying to tell him, okay, this is a better approach to parenting a teenager.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Not that I want them to be broken up. I don't care.
No.
But I liked that when they broke up, that because she doesn't know, like, she doesn't know what to do next. And then that gave Max kind of something to do because she didn't really have that much to do at first until her brother got turned into the thing, and then they were investigating. And
that was one of Michael's launching points in the last episode. You had talked at length about how all of the female characters, as strong and empowered as they were, never really interacted much in the second season. That changed in the third season with Max and 11. So what did you think of that?
Yes, and apparently that was definitely Millie Bobby Brown's and the actress who plays Max, who unfortunately I forget her name.
Sadie Sink.
Thank you. Yes, both of them. They definitely had input saying, "Can we please have some sort of interaction here where we do something more than just be girlfriends to these dumb boys?" And all the boys in this, like literally every man in this entire season was acting dumb at some point, and it was just like, okay, yeah, okay. And all the women were awesome and were showing like, oh my god, stupid boys, right? And it's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to see them two together. Plus, I just think it was really great that it helped enrich both their characters.
I also thought it was very, very emotional for me when Will still wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons and his friends wanted to go make out with girls. And I really felt for him. Like because he went through such trauma.
Yeah, he's missed out on being a kid.
Essentially 2 years of his life are PTSD, and they're just they kind of forget that and are so focused on what's going on in their lives.
They're going through growing pains. They're teenagers, and like Michael just said, they're being kind of dumb boys. But a lot of boys at that age, I mean, I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it's still a fact of life. It just tends to, especially I feel like in that, like in that time period, it probably just, there was less awareness about things like that maybe. But yeah, it's part of the growing pains of everything. But I agree with you. I felt for him too. It's kind of hard because he's like giving all those cries for help and they were not picking up on it.
And he was so excited for Dustin to come home. And then what does Dustin want to do? Go find a radio to talk to his girlfriend. Like, it just was like, gosh, this kid, I get it from him, Good writing again.
Yeah.
Are they really hinting at Will and whether or not he might be gay? Because there is... No, you don't think so?
I do not think so.
Because there was that whole line where he says, I'm sorry that you don't like... I mean, Mike literally said, I'm sorry you don't like girls. Or it's too bad... Or it's like, I can't help the fact that you don't like girls. I mean, he literally...
said in an interview they purposely left that line vague, like where it could be a jumping off point.
Yeah.
This idea that he's repressed because of the trauma that happened to him.
Well, also, some kids just aren't ready yet for that. Or they're not...
Because they're bullies about it when it happens. Like, they pick at each other, even if they are the closest of friends. I mean, I remember being in middle school, not in the 80s, but still, people still pick at each other for, like, even your closest friends for stupid crap at that age. So I could totally see, especially, like, in the heat of the moment, when you're trying to hash out something like the feelings Will was having. I could see someone saying something hurtful like that, but just to make a point. So I don't know. It could be, but I thought they were just like picking at each other.
To me, I just took it like he's not ready, he's not there, and all of his friends are.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like that they had Robin come out, but not like with
Then it would kind of feel forced and take away from Robin's story too.
And coming out wasn't, I don't think, as common for young people in the 80s.
Nope.
So to have one person do it, it's like, this is good. If another one did it, I'd be like, okay, I'm not sure that's an accurate portrayal. But it's also, maybe, I don't know. I was 5 in 1985, so.
Well, and I just want to throw in the possibility that whether Will likes girls or not like girls, he may not like anyone. I mean, like,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
you know, there may just, he might be in an asexual place, or he may just be too traumatized to even think about that right now. So,
For all we know, part of him still might not be all human from his time in the Upside Down.
which we're going to spend time talking about here in a few minutes. So I'm inclined to agree with Kyle. I think he made the statement. I think they left it vague. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's a given. And I don't think it really matters. And I also,
no, it doesn't.
Yeah, and I also don't think that, I'm inclined to agree with Sarah. I don't think we're going to get probably more than 1 or 2 on this show anyway, just because of the time period. She's absolutely right. That wasn't a common feature for the younger sect in that decade. It just didn't happen because of the prejudice that came with it. So,
Can I tell you another thing that made me emotional?
Yes.
That actually made me cry, and I don't know if it's because I'm a mother, but stay with me here. So Billy, he's kind of a bully. Well, borderline abusive, I think, to his sister. Seems like maybe he's abused, too.
yeah.
They showed that in season 2.
And made it really hit home this season.
Yeah.
Yes. So when he is inhabited by the mind flayer, and he's like walking around as a human flare thing, but he kept flashing back to the beach and his mom and that
11 went there, like 11 saw all of it.
Yeah. I was like openly sobbing.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you.
Because it was very well written and beautiful and well done, and just so emotional, and made you like really feel for that character and like be more sympathetic, I think. And
You talk about the scene where it shows the memories and the mom is going back to the abusive dad.
Yep.
Yeah. And then his sister, didn't she have
Max.
a baby, or his Max came? I don't know.
Yeah, it was literally a timeline of a lot of Billy's childhood.
It showed him calling his mom, and his mom pretty much telling him that she's not coming back.
Yeah, as 11 was going towards the sword, it started off on that memory on the beach of him surfing, and then it went through a timeline of all those major events of his childhood.
And it's important to note that Max is his stepsister. So the abusive dad remarries, brings along...
I thought they were... Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought they were half.
And then the implication is he's kind of a jerk to draw attention from the dad away from Max. So that way the dad's always beating him and not her. And he kind of resents her for it because he's protecting her, but nobody knows, nobody sees it.
It's so gut-wrenching to me. And I really wanted him to be okay in the end because of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's such a switch from before, because obviously he's kind of set up as a villain.
Yeah.
They definitely set up his redemption very well, I thought.
I'm kind of mad they made me like that character a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's their thing. The only pure evil in this world are things from the Upside Down. All the villains that we see are very human. They're not just one-sided, except for obviously the Terminator henchman guy. But
well, yeah, some of them are a little flatter than others, but what I think, to piggyback off that point, the Upside Down, we don't know any other motivation for those creatures, particularly the Mind Flayer, other than they're trying to get to our side of the barrier, and they're trying to take over all the life and take over the world, and they're for a nefarious reason. We don't know what that reason is for sure, because we don't know enough about the Upside Down. We just know that they're coming and they're dangerous and they kill things. But on this,
maybe it's just
on this side of the barrier, even the Russians, that was the whole purpose of talking to Alexei. They're not all evil. You know, they all have their marching orders, and there's that whole human condition, that failing where there's ambition and greed, and that question from Jurassic Park. You figured out that you could do it, but you never really thought about whether or not you should.
Chernobyl.
What?
Like Chernobyl.
Okay, only 2 people have watched it.
The actual event, because the event was around this time period.
Yeah, exactly. It was. Yeah, it was kind of touching on that a little bit, I think. I mean, obviously, a lot of things are loose, but I think that was part of it. It was kind of being...
So that would bring up an interesting point. Do we know where that other facility is at the end of the season? Could it be in Chernobyl? Oh.
Kamchatka.
Yeah, which is Syria. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's in the epilogue. They flash the location real quick. It's so quick, though. And you're too busy trying to figure out why are we over here again. And I think they show the location at the very first few seconds or minutes
The
of
prologue,
the first episode of this season. So it's not Chernobyl. I don't know Russian
I'm not
geography.
saying it's literally Chernobyl. I'm saying it's figuratively like Chernobyl.
I mean,
I was responding to Michael. Settle down. And Michael, geography-wise, where is Kamchatka related to?
Kamchatka is the westernmost peninsula of the Soviet Union, so it'd be the one that's closest to Alaska. And Chernobyl would be in Ukraine, which is the entire other side of Russia.
All I'm saying is it would have been cool if it was in Chernobyl. Then we would have had a little inkling.
Right, exactly. Billy, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Billy, although you kind of hit all of it. I mean, I think I wanted to say that a lot of, especially from Michael in the last episode, a lot of dislike for that character. I don't think that I minded him because I knew what his purpose was. You know, he was basically the ace from Stand By Me or Biff Tannen from Back to the Future, which figures prominently in this season.
Yay.
Yeah, so I think that his purpose never left me hating him so much. However, it's his journey that does ultimately make me feel a lot of feelings by the end of the series when he does translate his sacrifice to save 11, which now we can talk about a little bit. Let's talk about the ending sequence, which is really the last 2 episodes of the season. It's very, very jam-packed. There are whole paragraphs that I had to just kind of like leave as paragraphs because it was one right after the other, action sequences. The people were all converging on the mall, every single character. The Mind Flayer was coming to find 11, had already fought her at Hopper's cabin in the woods, had lost except for a little piece of it, a little piece of those entrails, because remember, this physical Mind Flayer was formed by the entrails of people and rats and stuff that had exploded in the mill where it's set up. It was by far the most gross season, I think.
It was so cool.
There was a lot of entrails. But it's okay. I got over it.
Goopy goop, as some would say. Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. So, talk about this ending sequence, because for me, I have to say that these are 2 of the most exciting episodes of TV that I think I've watched in a very long time. And they hold up really well on rewatch. Just saying. Plus, there's a very important sequence which I'd like to discuss, which is when Dustin radios Susie and starts singing.
Everybody wants to discuss
favorite scene of the entire season.
What? Repeat?
I said I'm sure everybody is excited to discuss that part.
Let's discuss it. What did you think of the whole thing? The whole
I
thing.
said literally the favorite moment of the entire season, honestly. I mean, as silly as it is to say, I know the internet conversation of that moment is a bit divided, but
Really?
I think the internet conversation, at least at the time, maybe in retrospect, people have grown to like it. But I feel like at the time, people are like, what is going on here? It brings the entire sequence to a halt. And people are like, this is so stupid that they're doing a musical moment, blah, blah, blah. Or other people are like, oh my God, it's so amazing. But I loved it. Like, I just thought it was like the absolute best way to bring Susie into the narrative. And one of the greatest payoffs I've ever seen on television. You know, I mean, you talk about setup and payoff with Susie. I mean, this is just like the dictionary definition of what you do to pay off something. And the use of that song, the Never Ending Story song, is just so perfect.
It really was. Yeah. I mean, Kylie, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a moment, but she was obsessed with that movie. And
it's still in my top 10.
I mean, I grew up on it too by proxy. And I mean, even still, I'm not as obsessed with it, but in that scene, in that moment, I do not feel it derailed it. It gave me like this, like very visceral joy. I was so happy with the way that they insert, just like you're saying, Michael, I love the way that they introduced her, all the obviously conversation about, is Susie real? And then the way that she shows up that way, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was well inserted into the episode too.
It added a nice juxtaposition of absurdity over the tragic car chase that you're seeing going on and all of the craziness. And above it all is this.
And you're getting everyone's reaction.
Yeah, these two Broadway stars, because both of those people have been on Broadway, and they're singing. And you're like, what is really happening? But it's a very amusing moment. It's also a moment I watched prior to watching the season because people were posting it and I saw it and I don't care. It doesn't ruin it for me to see that stuff. And I was like, this is going to be worth it.
I think I've watched more than once. Like I watched like the clip after.
Yeah, just the clip itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think those moments are really important because it's such a horror themed show, but their audience, a lot of people are very mildly horror related. Like they can't handle the really intense things like the fleshy mind flayer, which is an homage to The Thing and the 80s version of The Blob. So it's like you kind of need those moments of levity for all the people who just like it gets so intense that they can't handle it, and it's the perfect stress relief. It's hilarious.
I have to 100% echo and agree with what Kyle just said. I did recognize that the Blob reference, not The Thing, but there was times when the Mind Flayer moved that I was like, oh, this is totally the Blob. Secondly, yes, Neverending Story was a childhood favorite, remains an adulthood favorite of mine, and that is exactly why I loved it. So I am a lightweight, as we've discussed on this podcast episode series previously about horror. I don't watch a lot of it. I still am surprised that I've stuck with American Horror Story for so long. And this was a particularly intense set of sequences in these last two episodes. And I already said it's the grossest season of the three. And that moment brought much needed comic relief. It kind of trained you back to the fact that these kind of superhero kids in their own ways were still just kids, and it was so done with such winks and nods throughout the whole. I mean, the reactions exactly, Michael. The Jim resting his head up against the wall, just waiting to hear Planck's constant to get over it, and then it led to further jokes later on in the episode. After everything was all said and done, when Lucas and Max started singing to Dustin as they were packing up the buyer's house. So.
They're like, let us hear it, Dustin. And he's like, nope, that's only reserved for Susie. You're not going to get it.
Dusty Buns.
Dusty Buns. Yeah.
And Susie Poo.
No, and it also, for those people that thought it was like too cheesy or dumb, it gave us Erica, who got to be everyman, standing there like, is this really happening?
Yeah, like the look.
It was perfect.
Well, and it was so quintessentially the 80s. Like, that's when musicals started to get really big, and people would bust into musical numbers for no reason at all. And that was the 80s.
Yeah. That's what made it so I believe that there was negative. I don't recall seeing a lot of negative reaction to it, because everybody a lot of reviews that I read and friends that I know that are watching it outside of you guys were like, oh my gosh, I love that. That was brilliant to add that in there. Again, you have to consider the perspective of the show, the way that they set it up. It's like it was meant to happen, and it fit in just perfect.
I loved it. I think I posted something after I watched the season without spoiling it, about that one moment, just because it is my favorite moment of the season. It is my favorite moment.
Oh, go ahead.
I loved how, did anybody notice that she was reading Ursula K. Le Guin's The Magicians of Earthsea? I loved that book.
I thought that was perfect.
Cute. Dustin's red, white, and blue hat, I think, from the first season is sitting in her bedroom in the background. It's super cute.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
It's super cute.
I'm probably never going to be upset if you put in a musical number. I'm just probably never going to be sad about it. I can't think of an instance where I would be upset by this. Just keep it coming.
You were, after all, the one who pointed out that these two were on Broadway.
They were.
I know. Yeah, I believe you.
He was Gavroche in Les Mis, and she was in the original cast of Matilda, and she was the replacement little Allison in Fun Home. So there you go, guys.
Aww.
Nerd out on that. Nerd on out.
Speaking of little Easter eggs, we were talking about the hat in the bedroom. There was a scene in the mall where the fleshy mind flayer is grabbing the mannequin and throwing it. The mannequin was wearing one of Elle's shirts from season 2.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoy when they put little touches in that all throughout the thing. I think it's great. They're smart about Easter eggs.
I mean, the hospital in it was from Halloween 2. They even had the same logo for the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital as Hawkins Memorial Hospital. And the whole sequence in the operating room is almost exact from Halloween 2. It's awesome.
I didn't.
Cool.
But that's good.
Horror nerds are for real.
I know. They have conventions and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't really talk about the little couples too much, except that Sarah was squeamish might be a strong word, about the making out.
I just thought the dad was right to be concerned. That's all I'm saying.
He was. I just don't think he went about it the right way. When he got mad...
Well, of course not.
And I was just like, God damn it, stupid, why are you doing that?
Michael, how old's your daughter?
She is 8 now.
Okay, well, can we circle back to this in about 5 years?
5, 3 to 5.
3, fine. I hope not 3, but let's just...
I know. 11. I know.
But what about Lucas and Max? I thought Lucas was, aside from the fact that he was the one who suggested buying the fireworks, he didn't really have a lot to do this season other than to argue with Max.
He was the least served. I mean, because up until he buys the fireworks, he's just kind of there with an occasional comment.
Yeah.
It's like almost like they gave him and Max that little song at the end because they knew, like, oh, wait, they didn't get to do much. Let's give him a little musical number at the end.
That's because, I mean, his sister came in and she's totally hilarious.
She stole the show.
The spotlight.
Yeah. I mean, that's one big problem you have with a show like this is when you have that many characters, it's inevitable that someone is going to get short shrift. And it's unfortunate when it's a good character like Lucas and you want him to have something meaningful. And hopefully he will get something a little bit more meaningful next season. Hopefully.
I mean, I did enjoy... He had some cute little moments, like when he saw his sister and was like, what are you doing here? You're not part of this.
Yeah.
He was like, yes, I am. But you're right, underutilized, I think. I also think, like, Cara Buono is, like, one of the main credited people for the past 3 seasons, and she basically does nothing.
She's Nancy, right?
No,
She's Karen,
she is
Nancy's mom.
She's Nancy's mom.
Oh, Miss Wheeler.
Yeah, she must be. I thought about that because I was like, she's always main cast. I mean, she has been the whole time. She really, doesn't do that much. I don't know if...
Well, she lusted after Billy, and that just made me the goose.
Well, but
I mean, it's kind of in the 80s trope, though, of the parents are kind of there.
That's true.
They don't see anything that's going on. Like, they're completely blinded by, their middle-class lifestyle.
And also, though, she still has that... She has that very maternal moment with both Mike and Nancy. Like, she helps Nancy, because Nancy's upset she got fired from...
The paper.
The newspaper.
The paper.
That
and,
nice.
She's like, they're shitheads. Fight for what you believe in. I don't know where you get that from. And she's like, no, Mom, I got it from you. Like, that's very 80s to put something like that in there.
And Cara Buono, I don't remember what her 80s thing is, but she is a product of the decade, which is why I think she's got main cast credit. And she was more involved in the first season. It's kind of waned over time because the whole town was involved in looking for Will, so you saw more of the parents back then. I just don't think they have as much to do with her. I think, kind of in the same way that Michael was saying about having so many characters, there just isn't much for her to do beyond...
Yeah, I kind of felt it a lot with her. I mean, they had the will she have an affair or won't she stuff, but I don't know,
She does a lot of side stuff in character. For this season, she did an aerobics video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. It was pretty funny. I just think that at this point, when the first season was around, the kids were a lot younger. And really in the 80s, when all these misadventures are happening, kids were just more self-sufficient and on their own more often. I mean, like, hello, Stand By Me and all them things. Like, that's just what was happening.
That was set in the 50s, though, to be fair. So,
that's true. I'm just saying, it came out in the 80s. I'm just saying in general, though, that's kind of what was going on. They just...
I mean, that is legit, and I will tell you, I lived in a smaller town than, like, Kentwood, where I know some of you grew up, but, like, my mom would just be like, okay, come back at dinner time. Like, that's just the world that it was back then, and it's so different now, but it's kind of cool to see that, they're spot on with that.
I don't know if you want to talk more about the finale, please feel free, but I'm going to start transitioning now because we have a lot to discuss about what's going forward. So I'm going to start with the overall question, which is what questions do you have going forward? What do you predict for season 4? What do you wish or hope to see? And then it's important to note that a teaser for season 4 has been released. I have watched it this time. And from that teaser, we know that Hopper is alive, even though that was pretty heavily hinted at in the epilogue. And he's with the Russians. So let's talk about some of these questions, predictions, etc. What do you think? What do you want to know? What questions do you have going forward? What do you predict will happen in season 4?
I think everything's going to become more international. The threat of the Upside Down is going to go international because, everyone is now scattered all over the place. Jim is going to be in the Soviet Union, and Joyce and Will and Jonathan and 11, they're going to be somewhere else. Do we know where they moved to? Or did they mention where they moved to?
Nope.
Okay, so they are somewhere else in another state, presumably. So they're going to be like halfway across the country. So everything's going to be happening in... Obviously, something's going to happen in whatever place they end up that will cause them to start investigating some phenomenon on their end. And Joyce isn't going to be able to escape it. Will's not going to be able to escape it. 11 is going to... They're going to have something happen wherever they end up, and they're going to start investigating it. That will leave the people in Hawkins to investigate some other aspect of whatever's going on. They won't realize the two are connected until the very last moment. Jim will be doing something in Russia, trying to figure out his end of the mystery, and that will be connected. It's going to go international, and it's going to make the threat of the Upside Down that much more palpable, because it's literally going to it's going to threaten the entire planet, or at least 2 countries. So that's what's going to bring them back together in the season, I think. Maybe not season 4, but definitely the later season, was when they realize this is all connected. They're going to have to come back together somehow.
I'm going to go another way with it, Michael.
Yes, please do.
I think something's going to be happening. I want to say Haddonfield now, and I know that that's not right, but thanks, Kyle. What is it? What's the challenge? Hawkins.
The Predator character.
Okay. I think something's going to be happening at Hawkins that is weird, and the kids are going to run away to get back there to help their friends, and Joyce is going to have to go back there to retrieve them. That's my prediction. The Russia thing, I think you're spot on. I mean, either he's going to have to get out somehow. I don't know.
For me, the real question is, we know before the gate was closed, they got 1 Demogorgon, but we don't know how many. We just saw the 1, but we don't know the extent of how much they were pulling out before everything was closed up. And that's going to be, I think it's a lot more than that 1, and it's going to be unleashed.
Well, and we don't know exactly what they were doing in the Upside Down either. They might have found other things. That we don't know who's going to be controlling the Demogorgon if the Mind Flayer is actually back where he belongs, that the gate is completely shut. We don't know if the Demogorgons actually are just a part of the Mind Flayer, or if their own entire species that are controlled by them remotely, because we don't know their societal system in the Upside Down at all, or their motivations, which I hope we find out a little bit more about in this season.
I don't think there's just one door either in Hawkins. I think there's a door in Russia and probably elsewhere too. So I'm inclined to believe...
For all we know, yeah. I mean, maybe that was implied, but the Russians knew about him for like a really long time.
And
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
A weird question. You can cut this if you want. But Michael said Soviet Union, and we're saying Russia. Which one was it? Help me out.
Soviet Union. We should be saying Soviets. The Soviet Union dissolved in 1980, 1990.
I'm just saying Russians because the characters in the show were calling them Russians.
That's what I was saying too, but I'm so woefully ignorant about
They should have been saying Soviets because the Soviet Union didn't dissolve until 1991.
Well, but,
okay, thank you.
Yes, but at that time, and again, I was alive and remember it, they were used interchangeably. Russia was still a state in the USSR, and Moscow was still its capital. So it was used interchangeably, plus they spoke Russian. That's just kind of how I don't think it matters. It's both, basically. But.
Okay, now I know. I've been educated.
And knowing's half the battle.
And that's half the battle.
That's from the 80s, too. We are stuck in the 80s.
Can we have that little go over the
comet, the NBC?
Yeah, exactly. Although this is Netflix. So, what other predictions, hopes, or wishes? I
11 will get her powers back.
how
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
how will she get her powers back?
I don't know, but it's got to happen. It's not a show without 11's powers.
I mean, ultimately, I think she just kind of used herself up a little bit. I mean, that happened in the beginning, like the first season. She used a lot of her powers. That's one thing we didn't really talk about. She used her powers. She's coming into her own really well with her powers. That was part of her argument with Mike, is that she's capable of understanding what her limitations are and everything. And I just want to give a shout out to Millie Bobby Brown. I think she's doing an excellent job with the character, and I think that I just like the way that she's grown as just an individual in the show. So that's all.
What movies and TV shows and things were big? By the time this show comes back with everything going on in Hollywood right now, it's going to be like 1987 at least in the world of Stranger Things. So what's going on in 1987 that is going to relate to the show?
Yeah, I got this. For me, it was Cabbage Patch Dolls, My Little Pony. That was a joke, Michael, because I was 7. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Walk Like an Egyptian was big.
Yes, we were all walking like an Egyptian. Yeah.
But like what? I mean, I'm just trying to think. What are the popular cultural aspects that the Duffer Brothers are going to draw from? Because that's going to inform the story. Whatever's happening in movies.
Full House came out in 1987.
But that's not. I mean, none of those things are really going to. I mean, those are. Yes, obviously these are right, but
Reagan was president, but it was about to be a turnover, and it was the first George Bush guy, right?
Wait a minute. No, Jeremy, hold it. Wait a minute, Jeremy. Maybe that's what the Joyce and 11 and Will and Jonathan's going to be. They're going to be Full House. Like, it's going to be a Full House thing because they're going to have to bring people in to take care of all these. I don't know. I thought it could work.
You never know.
To answer the question,
The Berlin Wall.
that was 89, not 87.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was 89. I remember.
It was Reagan's speech for tear down that wall.
Oh, yeah, the wall didn't come down for another 2 years. I think the Soviet Union, if I recall, because I watched The Americans in the past year, isn't there some sort of major agreement that happens with the Soviet Union at this point? And it's starting to dissolve?
A plane landing in Red Square.
I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you. I'm woefully ignorant in the ways of 1986.
I'm also trying to think of movies, but the only one that I can think of is The Princess Bride.
I just think it's going to be generic. What was biggest in the mid to late 80s was the big over-the-top action movies like this Rambo sequels, Die Hard, which I think is where they're going with Jim's plot in Russia. It's going to be like the big escape movie, AK-47s, Russian bad guys. It's going to be the very over-the-top action movie until he gets back to Hawkins.
Adventures in Babysitting was 87. That could be something.
Oh, that's Steve's plot right there.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh,
okay.
Dirty Dancing, RoboCop.
Dirty Dancing.
That's got to be a part
That's going to be a part of it, because that was huge.
I taught that final routine to Jack today. I'm not even kidding. He plays baby, and I do the lift. I mean, not all the grinding, but just the steps. I'll try to get it on tape for you guys.
So there's a really cool scientific event that happened in 87, which would be kind of cool if they incorporated into season 4, which is the first supernova that could have been seen with the naked eye since the 1600s.
Oh, interesting.
Because you know how Dustin's ill into the science, and maybe him and Susie get a telescope to go with their radios.
Could happen.
Dirty Dancing was so huge. I have to believe that The Time of My Life is going to be in the soundtrack. So.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, at the very least, because they do a lot of awesome sound bites from the decade.
They really do.
Maybe that'll be the Nancy Jonathan thing. Maybe Nancy will be like, I don't know, something will happen with her where. I don't know. I feel like that'll be the Nancy Jonathan thing. It seems like it would be up their storyline alley.
How do we think Jim got to Russia?
He went through the portal.
Yep,
no, I think they kidnapped him.
Yeah, I think they
As much as I wish he would have went through a portal in the Upside Down, I think he was kidnapped.
So, in other words, because I have heard this theory where as everything was being vaporized, he somehow got out of the blast radius of the vaporizing, and so after the vaporization, whatever the word is, happened, the Russians that were left over that didn't get vaporized or, kind of like sweeping through the facility, and they find him and then take him back to the Soviet Union. Is that what we're thinking, maybe?
Yeah.
Kind of what I thought.
There's a lot we didn't see, so I think they could write it either way.
I'm giving it a 25 to 35% chance that it's the portal. I kind of wish it's the portal too. I hope it isn't a sleight of hand abduction thing, because I think it would make sense if they caged him and they're experimenting with the Demogorgons, that if he went through the portal and came out of the Upside Down, he would be an experiment subject, just like the guy we saw in the very last seconds of the epilogue that was being kind of fed to the Demogorgon.
That had a very, I don't know why, but I think that you will be the people to tell me why, if there's anything to this feeling, but that felt very X-Files to me at the end, where they were like in a Russian, it felt black oil, I don't know, something about it.
I know what you're talking about. I feel you.
Yeah, okay. It immediately reminded me of all the Tunguska episodes that are very season 3, season 4 of the X-Files. Yeah.
Every season of this show has given me X-Files vibes in one way or another. So I totally agree. I mean,
good. I feel vindicated.
But yeah, and then on the one token, the X-Files is often homaging other things too. So it's all just a big homage circle of love.
Why are the Russians interested in the Upside Down? Just because it's a power move like it always was in the Cold War?
I mean, they had the cages. I think the entire thing was weaponizing the Demogorgons.
I think they're trying to weaponize it.
Because we saw the 10-foot cage in America, and then we physically saw the Demogorgon in Russia.
See, I have a different theory. That was around the time when the Russians were looking for clean, renewable energy. And that was what the base in Hawkins was supposed to be for, was for energy research. So I think it started out as looking for an energy source, and it's turning into a weapons research facility.
That's very benefit of the doubt for the Soviets, Jeremy.
I don't think they went looking for mutant.
He was not interested in energy. He was clearly a militaristic general.
Who?
The Russian general, the one who tortured Steve, the one who had one of his scientists killed in the first prologue because they couldn't open the gate. I don't think he was looking for energy.
No.
Oh no, I'm saying back in like season 1. I think they've been involved the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the time.
I agree with that they've been involved the whole time.
So you think? Well, that's an interesting theory, because that would actually mean that they were working with Brenner and all the others who we assume right now are American government.
And are coming in to save the day, because they did at the end.
They did this season, but in the first season, Brenner was... Which, by the way, that brings up another question. We learned by revelation to 11 in her Sojourn episode in season 2, she was told that Brenner is still alive. And we haven't seen hide nor hair of him. Do you think that's true? Still, or at all?
See, that was my original theory, was that he went to Russia and he told them about the gates and how to open it, since he's the only American who would know that. And then I think their motivation with the Demogorgons is the same as in the Alien movies, where some morons think that they can control this uncontrollable species.
Oh yeah, I like that. we're going with the alien theory. So, I like that a lot. Have we seen the last of the Mind Flayer?
No.
No way.
Mm-mm.
He's like the big villain from the Upside Down, man.
On this side of the barrier, or will we see him in the Upside Down only, do you think? Or will he come back?
Only the Upside Down.
No.
Yeah, I think at this point that's what it's going to be, but I think
at some point they're going to have to go back into.
They're going to have to go back in there for sure.
That's good, because I think the cloudy, smoky one is cooler than the entrails one. So.
I think we're going to learn a lot more about the Upside Down and what it is exactly.
And that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want.
And with interviews with the creators and stuff, we know that the Upside Down originally was exact duplicate of Hawkins with living people in it, and the Mind Flayer came from another world and killed everybody.
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge. The Upside Down is a bridge between worlds, is what you're saying?
Yeah, between the Mind Flayer's world and ours.
Yeah, that's been implied. I thought at least.
I mean, they said in an interview at one point it was a regular parallel Earth, and the Mind Flayer got there and killed everybody, and then changed the atmosphere.
I mean, yeah, and that's why. I mean, like when you're in the Upside Down, like in the previous episodes, you're seeing the same environment. It's just all gross.
And we saw it spill out into our world and start to transform it in season 2.
Right. How many other worlds do we think there are? Are we going with a multiple, like a multiverse here? I don't think
we'll get to that point in this show. I think it's just going to be the two for the purposes of Stranger Things.
I agree with that. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like DC style. I think it's just.
How about Fringe style? Can we get Fringe style?
I was wondering if somebody was going to bring up Fringe.
No thanks. I couldn't.
I loved it.
I tried real hard.
It takes a bit.
I think I watched all of it. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Sarah on that one.
I love Joshua Jackson. There's nothing against him.
I like it, but I had to force myself to like it.
I like it because I liked it, but I guess that's for our Fringe episodes somewhere down the line. What happened to Murray? Did he just crawl back into his hidey hole?
Yeah,
I think he did.
He had to find a new one though, because
Joyce and Hopper gave away his. They compromised him.
They gave away his phone number to the feds.
Right. I want to insert here that I totally agree with Alexi. Cherry Slurpee is superior to Strawberry Slurpee. Okay.
That is not in question.
That's not even in. Well, I hope not.
It's not even close.
Love Alexi. He was so happy at the carnival, getting so sad.
He was like, "Yay, capitalism!"
Yeah, he was really excited about it. And you know what? I mean.
And I just love that he spends all day watching the Woody Woodpecker, and he wins himself a giant woodpecker. It was just so
at least he died happy. Things, I don't know. I took that really hard. I kept waiting for that to not be true, but
Hopper was like his Make-A-Wish Foundation. He got him a cherry Slurpee. He took him to the carnival for his last day.
He got him the Strawberry Slurpee. That was the whole thing. But Burger King as well.
He's Mountain Dew Slurpee.
Which was not next to 7-Eleven.
That's right. He went the extra mile just for that. So let's go through some of your prior predictions real quick. So several people predicted that Billy would have a greater purpose, and you were all correct. Although now he's dead. So there's that. Hillary predicted that Will would not lose his connection to the Upside Down. That is correct. How do you think that will develop in future seasons?
I feel like it will still be a factoring piece, and I think that there is still probably more of the Upside Down a part of Will than still what we've examined thus far this season.
He's going to be the metal detector.
Well, yeah, Sarah's right now.
If Sarah ends up being right, and it ends up being like the kids have to go back to Hawkins because something is going on there, and they know something's going on there. It's going to be Will that's probably going to be the one that realizes something bad is happening in Hawkins, and they have to go back.
If he opens his mouth this time and doesn't keep it a secret for 3 episodes.
Well, you know.
I think Hillary's spot on with this one. That's the through line, is that connection. I don't think that can go wrong. I think that is going to develop till the very end.
I actually want to see the depth of the connection more than just shivers on the spine or the Mind Flayer trying to possess him. Because another one of the predictions that came after that was Michael talked about the possibility that there's something special about Will's connection to the Upside Down because he survived so long there, which is as yet undetermined. Do you still believe that's the case?
I hope so, because I'm worried about what's going to happen to Will as a character. I'm worried that he's going to be not as important going forward. And I'm also worried that in order to keep the show interesting, they're not going to be able to keep whatever his connection ends up being relevant if they're all over the place. And I don't know. I'm just not sure what's going to happen in season 4. I'm having a hard time with the prediction aspect of this one because I just don't know what more they can do.
I'm subscribing to the idea that there's more there. There's something special about him, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't either.
I feel like if they would have left off the little epilogue at the end of the season 3, it could have been the end of the series, no problem. So it's harder to predict where it's going to go now. Because it feels like they wanted to have things to be able to be tied up in case it went that way.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Sarah theorized that Joyce was experimented on when she was pregnant, possibly, which could be why Will was abducted in the Upside Down originally.
I do not remember theorizing that, and that is ludicrous. What was? Why?
Were
did
you drunk?
You're so funny.
Well, I'm wondering. Okay, maybe it's
I think
because
maybe you watched too much X-Files before you said that.
yes, I did. Or maybe because 11's mom was experimented on, so maybe
That's
I
where
was
it came
trying to
from.
find a correlation, but I think we can flush that one down the toilet. I don't think there's anything to that, but we'll see. I mean, if that actually is true, you guys all gotta buy me dinner or something, because I'm some kind of genius.
We'll get you DoorDash.
I want some Olive Garden, I do.
I'm okay to
Buy
flush
local.
that one. I feel like that would be going too far down the rabbit hole, so I agree. Jeremy predicted and hoped that there were other test subject kids like the 8 and the 11 out there in or outside of the Upside Down. That's still undetermined. Where do you feel about that?
I feel like now that we're branching farther out into the real world, that we may be running into some of them in the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think that all the things that we're talking about are just gonna converge even more. I think they just really need to get deeper into the Russians now. Like, they're setting things up in this season a lot, is what I feel like. And even though it was all cohesive episodes, smooth transitions, I think it was a big fat setup for the next 2.
I think if Brenner's still out there, he's probably got some of those kids.
Even though I kind of wish that episode is retconned into non-existence, it is interesting that now she has no powers. It does set up a nice, I don't know what the word is, but it sets up a nice sort of niche for her that's like she has no powers. She might be lost. She needs that connection back to what she had. Maybe she just wants to get them back. So she starts looking for all the people, for all the young children that were a part of the same experiments that she was a part of. And maybe that's the pathway to her getting her powers back, or maybe that's the pathway to that storyline of those characters investigating whatever big mystery ends up being in season 4. I don't know. I guess if they try to bring that back together, I will be going along with it, but there's a part of me that doesn't care.
So, handful
I
of
love
us...
11, but I don't necessarily care about the other 1 through 8.
So, some of us think they're out there, some of us care, some of us don't.
But it will set up a nice thing if they end up going in that direction.
Okay.
I kind of feel like it wasn't that well received, and so they just went away from it, maybe. So, I don't know.
Well, we'll see. We will see.
Who knows? She might need their help.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe she'll need other people's help to permanently close all the doors.
Yeah, I mean...
Because there's probably more doors.
Yeah, there's probably more doors, and if the parallel world is it, because now we've learned that it's a much more expanded thing than just being in Hawkins, Indiana.
Well, and it kind of makes me wonder if there's an actual portal open in Russia already, and that's why they wanted to open one in Hawkins.
I think there
So
is.
it might be too much for 11 by herself, even though she's obviously grown in her ability. It still might be too much for her.
It's a 2-man job, 2 switches, 2 keys.
Yeah, exactly.
On this subject, Kyle predicted that 11 could possibly open doors to other universes, not just the Upside Down. That's undetermined so far, especially now since she has kind of lost her battery. Do you still believe that other universes...
I think they're just going to focus on the 2. I think that's, the 2 sides of the coin. One is what could happen to our world if this evil comes to it, and then they're just going to focus on that at this point.
So you
it makes sense.
you don't necessarily believe that or don't care is what you're saying?
I just think it's going to be the Upside Down and what's there. I don't think they're going to delve into...
He's like retracting a little bit what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially since we know there's only 2 more seasons left. I think they're going to heavily focus on more on the characters than outside worlds.
Both Michael and Jeremy theorized that 11 or the lab could also be messing with time travel, and that a lot of that came out of the Back to the Future teaser. That's undetermined, but also unlikely since Back to the Future became really more of a backdrop around the Russian spies, because if you notice, they were paralleling it with the parking lot scenes where we're talking about plutonium being stolen from the Libyans.
Yeah, I think that one's gonna... Why do I act like people can see me? They can't. They can't. I'm giving it the thumbs down, listeners. I'm giving it the thumbs down.
Yeah, I don't think time travel is probably... Michael and Jeremy, do you still think time travel is a thing?
Time travel would be a bit much now, I think. Just another aspect to add to the mythology of this series, and it would just overly complicate things, I think.
I agree. I don't think time travel is going to be something they're going to introduce. I think it would definitely be a little too much backstory or side story because I don't think it would figure in prominently enough. I think they have enough to focus on what they have.
And we already talked about Michael wanting to see the female characters intermingle more.
I would like to see more of Susie. I hope they do more Susie next season.
Agreed.
I was wondering if she's going to be in the next season prominently.
But again, that kind of goes along with my prediction, is because if this ends up being international and it's all over the country, she's in one part of the country, Dustin's in Hawkins, they're, Will and Eleven and Joyce or wherever they end up. So Susie could start investigating. It would give her something to do. Yeah.
Well, I think her and Dustin, their radios are going to come into play again, making towers so they can all communicate again anyway. So
I think
we'll see her for
Susie
a little bit
again.
no matter what.
Yeah, I think we'll see Susie again. And I'm all for that. Jeremy, Michael, and Kyle predicted, and Sarah wished, that Joyce would find love with Hopper.
Why did I want that? I get it. What was I thinking? I mean,
don't know.
no.
Now you don't want them?
No, I don't care. I mean, I think they're going to. I think there's always been a spark and something's there. But, in the grand scheme of this show, that is not on my top list of concerns. I don't know.
I think they're going to end up happily ever after in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so. I hope no one tragically dies, as sometimes happens in horror stuff.
Which for a hot second,
Bob.
I think that Hopper died. And when Eleven's reading, his speech that he wrote, that was...
Oh my gosh, that was gut-wrenching.
That was, yeah, that was totes emotional until I pretty much realized that he wasn't dead. But, I mean, that was, we didn't really talk about the letter that much, but that was pretty, it wasn't really a letter, it was his speech. But
it was a speech that he expanded on. He went beyond Joyce's initial few sentences of advice and then wrote the rest of it.
Yeah, and then he took
heart.
it on his own, and he said all those things that he was trying to say and couldn't say. And, yeah, I enjoyed that moment at the end of the season.
That redeemed a lot of the annoyances I had with Jim, Hopper, and whatever I was annoyed with him this season. That scene redeemed it so well. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, because I think the idea was 11 helped him get there.
Michael predicted that if Joyce and Hopper got together, Joyce would be a mother figure to 11. Didn't really happen the way you described it, but the buyers have taken an 11. Do you have any thoughts about that or any predictions about what will happen with her as a member of their family?
No, I mean, again, I don't know what's going to happen next season, but I mean, they'll have to make that more prominent. They'll have to develop that somehow. Maybe instead now with the absence of a father that 11 has had, she had a father figure with Dr. Brenner. She had a father figure with Hopper. Now with no father figure whatsoever, she's going to have to go to a mother figure, and that's going to be Joyce, and that's going to be something that's good for her somehow. At least I hope.
I think it's an interesting conflict because Will was the one that, this girl is one of his best friend's girlfriends, and they're all obsessed. And then now she lives with him and he's not only away from all of his friends, but, somebody comes with him, but it's this girl that he doesn't really know that well. I mean, when she came on the scene, he was, in the Upside Down. So I think that's going to add maybe some conflict for him and for her.
Also conflict with the Upside Down because he's still connected to it and the Upside Down wants to get 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to point out.
Good one. Yeah.
Which makes me my prediction for next season is that it isn't going to start in Hawkins. It's going to start wherever they are. Because I think the nexus of the Upside Down revolves around Will and 11.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm going to drop another opposite on that. Just for funsies. I think it's going to start in Hawkins. And I think they're not going to know where Joyce and company are right away. And they're going to be encountering some things and trying to get a hold of them. But I think Joyce is trying to get some distance. That's my prediction.
The reason why I'm predicting what I'm predicting, though, not only for the Will and 11 aspect, is because Joyce was so she wasn't adamant, but she was strongly considering and then finally made the decision to flee Hawkins because of all the bad stuff that had happened there, the bad memories. It seems to me a pretty significant writer's irony if it followed her to the new location.
Like Poltergeist.
Correct.
Yeah, because and the only reason she was going to stay anyway was because she was really considering finally going on the date with Hopper, and then she thinks he's dead. So
I don't necessarily disagree with you that stuff's going to follow them. I just think we're going to pick up looking at Hawkins and with that crew not knowing where Joyce and company is.
Sure.
That's what I think is going to be our first glimpse.
Oh, sure. No, agreed. I guess what I was referring to is more the upside down stuff will start wherever they are. But I'm sure you're right. I'm sure we'll at least check in with the Hawkins crew. That's the biggest group first.
Yeah.
Poltergeist 2 is 1986.
Oh.
Just saying. Poltergeist 2, the sequel, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, that takes place, I think, is that the one that takes place in the
hotel?
High-rise? Oh, no, that's
that's three. That's three.
Okay.
I don't know, but that's the one with the tagline, "They're back."
That's 88, and that's 1988. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that could mean something. It could mean something. Maybe.
The thing I'm curious about is Jonathan and Will's dad was added to the main cast this season.
Oh, I did not know
revisiting
that.
that relationship from the first season.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm very curious where that goes, because obviously he's probably going to be wondering where they are and what big part is he going to play.
Oh, I did not know that. That is interesting. That's going to be
He's
drama.
a mind flayer.
Oh.
He's the mind.
What if
I
he
don't
is
think
the
he is.
possessed one? That would be sad.
What if he is, you guys?
That'd be scary. Scary. The last hopes and wish from the last season, Kyle and Hillary talked a little bit about wanting to see some in-school storylines, but we didn't get to see that because
We did get to see the science teacher, at least, who's like the best part of the school stuff.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the summertime. They were busy being summery. Okay.
He was fine. I was happy with it.
So last time, now I mentioned off recording, I'll mention here now, it's been 2 years since we've talked about Stranger Things. It seems like only yesterday, but it's been 2 years. We're now in quarantine. Life has changed. So for Stranger Things 3, the last time I asked you to identify with a character and also asked the group to identify you as a character. How that shook out was that Kyle saw himself as Bauman, but we all thought he was more Jonathan, although Hillary added Steve to the mix because marriage. Hillary, your hair. Yeah, okay.
Your hair.
I don't remember any. Like Sarah said earlier, I do not remember that at all.
It's totally recorded and on YouTube. Hillary saw herself initially as Mike, but we convinced her she was more of a Max. Michael saw himself as Mike, not just because it was his name. The rest of the group saw him as Bob, and he was like, oh yeah, I can see that.
That I totally remember because I was like, of course you all think I'm Bob.
Right, of course we do. Sarah saw herself as Nancy, even though Michael was kind of trying to convince her of Joyce for a minute. And the rest of the group just fell in line with that. Yeah, Nancy, that's it. Jeremy saw himself as Dustin because of all of the curiosity about the upside down and stuff. But then we said he was more of an 11. He was like, that's cool. I'd totally be 11. And then I saw myself as Mike, and the rest of you pinned me as Lucas or possibly a Barb Lucas hybrid because I have that direct common sense check piece.
Well, then on that note, wouldn't you be Erica now? Oh.
Right.
So the question is, do these questions change for you this season at all? And how would they change?
They better change. I don't want to be dead.
Well, Mike, I think you actually now remind me of Murray as much as you hate that. Because you're telling everybody what the accurate things are. Murray was a very facts kind of guy. Like, he knew Russian. You know Russian geography. I don't know. It just struck me. Sorry. I apologize.
No, it's fine. I'm used to always being called a character that I don't like, so...
Oh, jeez, what a martyr.
Change your mind. Who do you see yourself as? Don't say the mind flayer.
I don't see myself as anybody, so that's the problem. So, yeah.
Well, then you'll have to be Murray for the time being.
Bald
Okay.
Eagle. Come in, Bald Eagle.
He's not bald, for the record, listener. Okay, what about the rest of yous? Are you still Nancy, Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I'm any of these characters, I guess. I mean,
Sarah, you're Mrs. Driscoll.
That's not right.
Which lady is that?
The old lady who died, who ate the fertilizer.
The rat lady?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're just telling everybody.
I'm a little bit of a troll.
Well, I don't honestly remember this conversation last time, but I guess Nancy makes sense because I do think that I would be in there like not letting myself be discriminated against at a job, possibly even getting fired, and like putting myself on the line and being spunky like that, I guess, and like running in a hospital. I don't know. I can't really correlate too closely. I guess that's the closest.
Does everyone
Maybe
else
Joyce?
see? Do you see yourself as more of a Joyce now? Because last time you were not having that.
She just makes a lot of decisions.
That's what you said.
That I don't see myself making. Like I know she was trying to lead them away from her children, but that I don't know that I could leave my children out of my eyesight for a minute if I thought that was going on. I know my kids are younger though, so it's hard for me to say, but I don't know.
You don't see yourself taking charge though in a dangerous situation though to protect them and save them?
I mean, I probably would have to. I think that's like your motherly instinct.
She's like, well, people are going to force me to.
To me, there's so many decisions that lead to getting there that I like to think I'd put the kibosh on first. I guess I don't know.
How would the rest of the group see Sarah? As a Joyce, a Nancy, or a both? Or someone else?
Maybe I'm Susie.
That actually could...
Oh my gosh!
I think you are Susie. Because she wanted the singing. She wanted it. She would not give Planck's constant. And you're mathematical.
You are Susie.
You're Susie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you must call Nick Dusty Bun.
I do. I do.
So we've made you Susie. How's that?
Yes, I approve. I mean, maybe I'm just a mix of Susie, Nancy, Joyce, and the Rat Lady. Maybe we all are. I don't know.
No.
It's the perfect storm. I see a lot of things that I like. All of these women characters, they're all really strong. So it's hard for me to pick a guy one, but I'm okay with any of them.
Jeremy, what do you think?
For myself personally, I still think of myself as Dustin.
Do we still see him as Dustin and or 11 or somebody else?
Now's the time
I feel
for
like a
payback
lot
time.
of us are combos.
Maybe you're Alexi because you were really excited about that ice cream, and he got really excited about the.
I'll take that.
7-Eleven.
And he is a scientist, so he's like Dustin too.
Yeah.
Do you really like carnival games?
I do, actually.
And I think you'd be mad if you got strawberry instead of cherry Slurpee.
I like strawberry, actually.
Strawberry Slurpee? It is not the same.
I would not want the giant stuffed carnival prize, though, because I hate those things.
Yeah, I agree. They just take up space.
Yep, I don't want to carry it the whole time.
So we're saying he's Alexi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we
Let's
should
be
all
done,
pick it seems like we're all picking a new character for season 2 to be, or for season 3 to be.
So Kyle, what about Kyle? Is he still Murray or Jonathan or somebody else?
Or do we have to pick a new character? You can be.
You can be whoever you want. 'Cause
I really like Murray, so I would love to be Murray. I don't know if I'm that. I don't know.
I think you're Murray when it comes to comic books, but that's it.
I think we're all a little Murray now that we're all quarantined because we all want to be by ourselves with nobody else.
I don't want to be.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
Kind of like
No,
Mike.
I don't
in
want
the
to be
way
either.
you are with me.
What did you say, Hillary?
I said he's kind of like Mike in the way that he is with me. That's all I got.
Okay. Does that make you 11?
By that you mean boys lie?
No. Because, again, that was just a typical growing pains and misunderstanding.
I still think that Hillary is Max.
Yeah, but also maybe kind of Robin, don't you think?
Oh, you could be, yeah.
Because I could totally see her being like, okay, but why are these children here right now? What is going on?
It does.
And like trying to like figure out what the actual. Yeah, I don't know. I could see that a little bit.
I might cut this out, but I've also seen her drunk, and the drunk reaction and the drug reaction is very similar.
She also has that same outfit, the little sailor thing.
Oh,
She
yeah?
wears that all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Out in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Up and down.
Who
the
doesn't have
street.
one of those?
Max and Robin, or just Robin?
What about Kylie?
Well, I'm picking a new one for everyone. That's my thing. So you can.
I actually
Robin is
would.
fair.
I would actually. I mean, I do like boys, but I would agree that I have a lot of her personality traits. Yeah.
I'll go with it. Yeah, I could see her. I think from Robin's a good choice.
For Hillary?
Yeah.
So that leaves me.
Erica.
You're just going by the new characters.
Yep. But I think it's funny too, and she's like very much saying the things. She's cutting through the BS of the situation and stating the facts. and I think you're very good at that.
I wouldn't
In
call
the
other people
comical way.
nerds, though, in such a derisive way because I'm self-aware. So,
You're Erica Susie.
You're Erica in
Yeah, I was going to
4
say.
years.
I still think a lot of us are like hybrids.
are you giving me Susie because of the love for Never-Ending Story?
No. I could see just like you nerding out. I've seen you nerding out the exact way that Susie has. Also, Susie knew the answer to the equation and all of that shit, the code for the door. Like, I feel like that would totally be end up in your court there, friend.
Okay, so I'm Susie and Erica is what you're giving me? Okay.
I'll be Erica. I like ice cream. Let's just trade.
That's fine. Now, here's another $1 million question. If you could pick an 80s song that you've heard on the show to be the soundtrack as these characters, which one would you pick?
I really liked the remake of Heroes that was
By
used
Peter
at the end
Gabriel?
of the... Yeah, I thought that was amazing. I thought it was also well placed.
That's the one I was going to pick.
Instrumental?
What?
I said the song, can it be instrumental?
It can.
In the scene where they're in the bathroom drugged, it's the main theme from Day of the Dead, which the younger kids see in the first episode. And I love that soundtrack. And then like seeing it paired over not the horror movie, but then them in the bathroom being really honest with each other. And it's like this song I've heard a million times, this music I've heard a million times, but in a different context. And I loved it. It was amazing.
I would have to say the same thing because I've started watching TV with subtitles on because I can't hear anything because I'm old now. And it always tells you what music's playing. And I noticed that like right away. I'm like, oh my God, it's Day of the Dead's playing right now. That's awesome right now.
So 2 for Day of the Dead, 2 for the Heroes. Sarah, Michael?
I can't remember any of the songs. I would just be making something up. I'm sorry.
So we're picking a song from this season that
Or the show up until this point.
and we're picking a song to just like be that we like, or I guess I'm not sure on the question. I apologize.
What would be the soundtrack of your life given the character that you are?
Oh.
So I have to pick a song from the show that is me being Murray, in other words.
And this is going to be hard for you, isn't it? 'Cause you don't like him.
Yeah, I don't think I can do it, literally.
I can do it now. I got it. I will go with the never-ending story.
I would have to change mine too if I'm Dustin.
I would have that one on alongside Heroes because you made me 2 characters. So you give up, Michael.
Yeah.
We'll think of
You
one
can
for
put music
you.
from the
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
mechanical horse that was on the Russian recording.
What?
I said he could be the music from the mechanical horse on the Russian recording. That's how they figured out it was the mall.
There you go. That's a good one.
Fair enough, I think. Okay. Is there anything else that you wish to say about season 3 of Stranger Things or what you hope to see in season 4?
I actually just like that I can't always predict what's going to happen. Like, really, in the last couple seasons, I didn't really know where they were going to take it. And I kind of like that element. Sometimes you go into a new season of a show and it's kind of predictable. I have some examples for that, but there's no need to go down that road. Ultimately, I just like that I don't always know where it's going to go. It's always a surprise for me. And that adds to the suspense. I enjoy it.
I just always look forward to what random horror movie homages are going to pop up. Sometimes it's just a split second. It's the way like things are set. Sometimes it's the whole scene. There's just so many little Easter eggs for a horror fan that every season is just a treasure trove for me.
And pop culture.
And pop culture. I was going to piggyback on that. For me, it's the Easter eggs to everything 80s all around.
Yeah.
Right.
All of
Yeah.
it.
And the
new
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep watching?
Definitely.
Yup.
This season.
Do we know a release date at all yet? I don't think we do.
It has not yet been announced, and I have a feeling that global pandemics are interfering a little bit with the timetable.
Well, yeah, I mean,
They had a lot filmed, but we don't know how much into production they were.
Right. And I believe they were not finished filming, and if they are, and they're in post-production, there's still a bit of there's going to be a point at which we hit a lag on new entertainment that has been scripted because of this. So
actually, I'm a little worried what's going to happen, because if they were in the middle of production on the season and now there's this big gap of filming, they might have to scrap everything they film because the kids have aged too much.
That's why I was shaking my head the whole time you started saying that.
Yeah.
I think the kid, I get what you're saying, but I think they're old enough that it's not going to be too extreme. I mean, I don't think between the ages
Except for maybe like Erica.
that one might be tricky. You're right. The littles, maybe.
And
But
even
like
maybe Susie, actually, too, because she looks younger than her age.
I don't think she's going to be that prominent that one will be a big deal. I think if she comes back, it'll be like 2 or 3 appearances or radio stuff. I don't
think
know.
they have a lot of it filmed, though, because they don't tend to start trickling out the teasers until there's enough of it to play with that they can do that. So I would bet that they were almost done or in post-production. I don't think, and even if they weren't, I think they could adjust the timing a little bit so that the growth of the kids wouldn't be a big deal, just depending upon how they hallmark the pop culture and the political events. Because that was very important in the 3rd season, not necessarily as important in the other seasons. So it's just it's going to kind of depend on how much they got done and when they decide to finish it up and release it. Because I was also referring to there's going to be a little bit of a lag, a stagger, if you will, coming with new entertainment coming out of any network, any streamer, because they all halted production while we went into quarantine.
I'm Googling right now. They were filming partially at least in New Mexico, where they previously shot in Atlanta, so that's a little different, so who knows. But filming has been halted on all Netflix shows, so this doesn't get as specific as I wish, but it confirms that they might not be quite done. We'll see.
Would you still recommend Stranger Things at this point? Because everyone said yes the last time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. More so now.
Yes, as long as they don't fall into the same pattern as the Star Trek movies where every other one ends up being terrible, I'm okay, yes.
I think the first 3 seasons have earned a little more trust than the Star Trek movies' odd even curse.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with Kylie there.
This is coming from the person who loves Star Trek the motion picture.
That is very true. I'm saying the conventional wisdom.
Okay, all right.
The conventional wisdom is that the odd-numbered Star Trek movies are not as good as the even-numbered Star Trek movies. And I'm going off the fact that season 1 and season 3 are amazing, and I didn't like season 2 very much at all. So I'm worried that season 4 might be terrible, and it's doing the every other thing.
But
I'm sorry.
Well, then it's a good thing they have a 4 or 5 season story arc lined up.
So
there's
more
that.
seasons will be good than the bad ones.
And
And it'll end on a high note.
I super enjoyed season 2, so I'm thinking there's no curse and we'll be just fine. And I recommend this show all the time. I just did it a few days ago to another podcast. So this is how that's going to be. Stranger Things, my #1 recommendation of the now. It's got universal appeal. It's a little scary, but not too scary. I actually sat my mother down. She says she liked it, and I don't think she's watched more of it. But I did make her watch the first couple of episodes. Because I'm like, you are going to like this, I swear. She didn't believe me, and then I convinced her. Yes, she liked it. Hooray. Anything else you want to say about Stranger Things Season 3 or what you hope to see in Season 4 or anything we've discussed?
I think we covered it pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, great! Since we've covered it pretty good and we're all in quarantine yet, and the hours just seem to drift into nothingness, what I'd like to do is thank Hillary, Kyle, Sarah, Jeremy, and Michael for joining me once again to talk about Stranger Things, and specifically Stranger Things 3. And because we finished our discussion about Stranger Things 3, it is now time for the credits! Couch Potatoes Unite! Was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kelsey Rezmer. Kelsey played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole kit and caboodle was engineered and produced by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give us stars, give us comments, give us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a message. We might just read it on the podcast. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what we should keep, what we should toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter at CPU Podcast, and Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We always have several more new episodes coming down the pike. Just listen to our intros. And if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find us. We are everywhere and searchable wherever you look for things on the internet. You can search for us, or you can subscribe on our website, our channels, our social media accounts. Stay up on our new events and episodes. Until the next time, all available seasons of Stranger Things are available to stream on Netflix, as that is the network who makes it, and who should reward loyal viewers like us for our patronage and constant mention of their name. In the meantime, our Stranger Things panel will next reconvene at some point following the release of the 4th season, the date of which has not yet been announced. As always, keep a weathered eye to CPU for all of the details. In the meantime, and until the next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Whoa.